Now, the theme of the night was Make America Safe Again, and one of the big moments came when Donald Trump introduced his wife, Melania. Let's take a look.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We love you. Thank you very much. Oh, we're going to win. We're going to win so big. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to win so big. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to win so big. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to present the next First Lady of the United States, my wife, an amazing mother, an incredible woman, Melania Trump. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
And here was reaction. Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, this has not been your first rodeo convention. By every account, big night, successful night.
Very successful. This convention has the kind of energy you saw in 1980 with Ronald Reagan. And I have to say the two big moments tonight were Melania Trump's speech, led by her husband's very brief introduction, which was perfect. I happened to be over with another network watching it, and they were just stunned that he walked out, did that short introduction, and walked off.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know,
I think I read she speaks, what, 5 languages?
Well, she speaks 5 languages. She delivered it perfectly. It was also a very good speech.
Yeah.
And I think will move her up as a potential First Lady dramatically. I think it puts a real standard for Bill Clinton. If you're going to have a spouse versus spouse.
That's a good point, right? Okay.
Let's see how his speech is.
We're looking at General Flynn, and he's out there. And, you know, if you really look at the
Let me say, General Flynn's book, Field of the Fight, is a really useful introduction to what's happening with radical Islam.
Yeah.
And he is a remarkable man.
But, you know, we've been watching now, either it's another terror attack or it's another assassination of a police officer, a terror attack. America's not safe. We have made really bad decisions in the last 8 years. And it seems like we're now beginning to pay the price. You know, it's always peace and prosperity that drive elections. Is it going to be peace? Is it going to be security?
I think it's going to be safety. I think if you get it down to a Donald Trump level word, you know, it's going to be safety. Do you feel safe at home when you watch policemen getting killed? Yeah. Do you feel safe overseas? Do you feel safe in Chicago? When you know that there have been 3,400 people killed since Obama came. I mean, I think that sense of safety is a big deal. The other thing I would say is that there's going to be a terrific response to Giuliani's speech. Rudy was on fire tonight. He believes it deeply, passionately. He is committed to doing something about it. And I thought his speech was this. If it hadn't been for Melania's knocking out of the park, he'd have had the best speech tonight. You know, I clearly came in second.
One of the things that, you know, if we look at this and we look at the rise of terrorism, you know, for example, we learned today that Iran now can build a nuclear weapon in half the time than we thought was possible, part of the secret deal that was revealed. Then you look at Iraq, and they pulled out early, and cities that we fought, the Americans fought, bled, and died for, were turned over to ISIS, along with the financial resources of oil. Then Syria. Then, of course, the red line in the sand, you know, red line in the sand there. The reset with Russia. Nothing seems to be working. Do you think Americans seem to get it now? We add Benghazi to it?
Well, I mean, more and more. And, of course, today you had an attack on a German railroad train, which, again, was a refugee yelling Allahu Akbar. It'll take our news media a day or two to figure out what that meant. But I do think for the average American, there's a sense that things aren't working, that safety at home and safety abroad may well be the most important issue.
Right.
Because frankly, if you're going to get killed, then every other issue becomes secondary.
But think how ahead of the curve he was on building the wall, immigration, not only for security but for jobs, and then taking on a very controversial issue, that is, if you grow up under Sharia and we're taking in refugees, do you really want to be an American? Do you really want to assimilate? Or are you here to advance the caliphate worldwide?
Well, and what you have here, and again, General Flynn referred to it, Rudy Giuliani referred to it, Hillary Clinton is willing to risk American lives to help Syrians. Donald Trump wants to protect American lives, even if it's inconvenient for Syrians. I mean, you couldn't have a bigger gap, and people say, well, maybe only 8 or 10 of them will be dangerous. Well, one killed 84 people in Nice.
Yeah.
One killed 47 people in Orlando. So even one can be very deadly.
You know, you're right. I look at all of the different terror attacks, and I look at an administration that can't even admit radical Islam. I mean, I can't, it's inexplicable to me. It makes that little sense. And I think people are now beginning to get that, you know what, there's consequences for American weakness. And I think people I talk to are getting the feeling like this is getting out of control.
Yeah, so, well, I think that's right. And I think that with every passing month, you watch the coup in Turkey, Erdogan, the president, trying to create an authoritarian, pro-Islamist dictatorship. I think people are seeing a world that's falling apart. But if you're the left, you can't say that. I mean, first of all, if you're the left, you don't want to be judgmental.
Right.
So who are you to describe these things?
Why would Hillary want a 550% increase in refugees when our National Director of Intelligence, CIA Director, FBI Director, Assistant FBI Director, House Homeland Security Chair, and our Special Envoy to defeat ISIS said, oh, by the way, ISIS will infiltrate that refugee population? Why would you gamble with American lives? Is that what you're going to run on?
Well, because I think she represents a party which is so totally committed to changing traditional America, so totally committed to drowning it in immigrants, so totally committed to being weak in the world, that you can't even discuss it with them. It's a basic belief system.
You know, I asked you, and I know you came under a little fire the other night for comments you made on the show, but when you really think about it, how do you ascertain somebody? I would appreciate if you grew up under Sharia law and you're a woman and you're told how to dress and you can't drive and you can't go to school and you can't leave your house without a male relative. I think I would understand you wanting a breath of freedom. How do you ascertain, though, those that want to advance their radical views and those that don't?
Actually, I had a very interesting conversation right here tonight with two Muslims who came over and said, look, Sharia, as understood by most Muslims, is in fact a relatively soft irrelevancy. And they said, now, if you're talking about, and they listed radical Islam, if you're talking about killing apostates, killing gays, totally suppressing women, replacing the current government with an Islamic dictatorship, and they went down a list of things, and they said, now, if that's what you're talking about, we're totally with you. And I think there may be a dialogue we need to create here to say, look, it is legitimate, first of all, to check any potential immigrant in the United States. But we have no obligation
to take anybody in. Right.
But second, also to say, if you find somebody like the guy in Orlando who starts going on ISIS websites, who starts saying to his friends, I'm really glad that they killed Americans at 9/11. There's a point here where it goes tilt, and you have an obligation to start monitoring that guy in a very serious, methodical way.
But, you know, if you think about Saudi Arabia, which gave so much money, Oman, the UAE, Kuwait, all of these countries, the majority of them treat women like third-class citizens. Gays and lesbians are killed in many of them just for being gay and lesbian. You can't build a Jewish temple or a Christian church. She takes their money. She doesn't criticize them. It appears to me like they bought her silence, a woman that says she is a champion of all these special interests.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing, and this again tells you about the elite media. Here's a person who, while she was Secretary of State, the foundation that is the family foundation is getting dictators who are totally opposed to what she says she believes in, giving them millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they want us to believe it had no impact.
Had no impact. I've gone and I've researched again and again. I can't find the criticism or the treatment of women, gays, lesbians, Christians, or Jews in any of the countries that gave her significant millions of dollars.
And when you take a publication like the New York Times, which you would think was pro-gay and pro-woman.
No, they're more pro-Hillary. It's more, let's be honest.
Yeah,
right?
It's interesting. I mean, here's a paper that's supposedly liberal, and it collides with this wall of oppression.
Yeah.
And it flinches.
Pretty fascinating. I think Americans now understand the need to build a wall. I think Republicans and Democrats kind of colluded together. I think Democrats see a permanent majority for generations, which is why they want more immigrants coming in. They're assuming they will be Democrat. And I think Republicans have catered to, quote, big business that wants cheap labor. I think Trump is going to build the wall. Is that helpful when you have 95 million Americans out of the labor force? You know, in other words, when you have 11 or 14 million people competing for a limited number of jobs, not that it's a zero-sum game, but a limited number of jobs, doesn't that, number one, prevent many Americans from getting them, and doesn't it drive down wages? And isn't the national security aspect a lot bigger?
Well, I think most Americans agree that we have to have control over our southern border. Most Americans would agree that we have to know who's in the country, partly for national security reasons, partially for crime reasons, and partially because you're not, as Trump says, if you don't have a boundary, you're not a country.
You are confident Donald Trump is going to win this election. You've told me many times. You're pretty confident.
I'm very confident.
Why?
First of all, I think he is going to outline, and we just saw part of it tonight.
Sure.
I mean,
keeping America safe.
Well, but I'm also talking about, I mean, you look at Melania, you listen to her speech, the guy she's describing is a pretty plausible president. You're going to hear from Donald Jr., you're going to hear from Eric, you're going to hear from
Ivanka introduces him.
Before you even get to him, you're also going to hear, I ran into an African-American woman today who's worked for the Trumps for years. She's speaking, I think, Wednesday night. So I think we're going to see a much richer, fuller version of Trump by the end of this. And then I think his speech is going to be presidential. I mean, I haven't read it, but I'm fairly confident. I know the team working on it. And I know that he personally wants it to be both biographical and visionary. And I think he'll probably pull that off.
Let's talk about, is this a change election? Is this a, in other words, we were talking earlier today, I think it was on my radio show, about the idea that Carter and Reagan, you think this is a bigger choice election than even that? That interested me.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, first of all, Obama and Clinton are worse than Carter.
So, wait. You know, that's really saying a lot.
No, it's not. I mean,
21% interest rates, unemployment.
But let's start with this. Hillary Clinton is the most corrupt person ever to run for the President of the United States. I mean, it is unimaginable how many zones of corruption surround her. Their foreign policy is a bigger disaster than Carter. Carter only had a really big mess in Afghanistan and Nicaragua. They have country after country after. You go through this whole list of what they have mismanaged, and it is breathtaking how bad they are.
I've got to let you go, Mr. Speaker. Thank you
Always
so much.
Always fun to be with you.
This has not been. When did you first go to your first convention?
1984.
I wasn't that far behind you, you know. All right, 92.
By the way, Joni Ernst speaking.
Joni Ernst, yeah.
She is one of the real stars of the
I had a chance to sit down with her last night. I agree with you.
Isn't she terrific?
Terrific.
Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Mr. Speaker.